that's my theory of why, but I don't know what Tarantino. I'm not in his brain, so.
I'm glad I'm not in his brain.
Oh no, I would not want to be in his brain.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the T.H.O. Movie Reviews podcast, the show where we bring you passionate, honest, and insightful film criticism. I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson, and I'm here today to review Once Upon a Time... in Hollywood with my colleague Hannah Dawson. Hannah, I know both of you kind of are Tarantino newbies.
Yeah.
We both got through like basically our own crash course.
Oh yeah, like intensive deep dive.
Are you expecting like, machine guns and samurai swords and, foul language around every corner now?
Oh, I like knew his tropes, so I knew what to expect coming in, but after doing like a deep dive, it was just mentally exhausting. Just of like the length and the amount of dialogue he goes through, and I don't know about you, but the violence is kind of exhausting to a point of like, how much blood and gore do I need to see?
Yep.
It's like, obviously it's excessive, but it's like, to what means, to what ends. I mean, they were all enjoyable plot-wise. I liked the plot. The writing I thought was good, like consistently throughout most of his movies, but if I had to pick, Tarantino wouldn't be like my number one. I'd be like, yes, I'm in the mood to go watch like Inglourious Basterds tonight. I want to... Right.
No,
not really. It's not my like, I want to relax tonight, let's put that on.
I'd seen like a couple of some of his stuff. Mm-hmm. I think the first one I saw. I know the first one I saw was Inglourious Basterds, mm-hmm. and I kind of feel like my first impression of that movie, like, has been the impression I've continued to have of all mm-hmm. the stuff I've seen, where it's like I admire the craftsmanship. I'm amused by some of it, mm-hmm. entertained by some of it, but I'm also, leave feeling like a little leery and also left a bit cold, like, because it's all, I don't know, mm-hmm. it's a lot of, sleek surface and not much underneath all the madcapery.
They have the same kind of beat, I guess, or pacing, because they're all episodic. He does the intertitles a lot, like chapter 1,
which pisses me off. Like, it's just annoying.
And he loves like weaving in just multiple storylines, characters, and like it's always building up to that third act.
Yeah.
Which, if you like watch one, that's gonna happen in every movie. So you're just kind of sitting there like, okay, well, these 2 hours are building up to something, and I know something's coming, and it's gonna be bloody, or something's gonna come to a head, and you're just kind of waiting there, and you.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's like the extreme version of that.
Yeah, and so you're just kind of sitting there and you're just anticipating it. And it's kind of sad because I want to go into a movie not knowing rather than expecting.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Because I think the first one I saw was Reservoir Dogs, and from there, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and then I started watching the other ones. I was like, oh, it is a 3-act structure. Okay, well, we know what's going to happen in the end. Which was slightly disappointing, but... oh well.
Well, before we dive into our full review, the official synopsis for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time... in Hollywood visits 1969 Los Angeles, where everything is changing as TV star Rick Dalton, Leonardo DiCaprio, and his longtime stunt double Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt, make their way around an industry they hardly recognize anymore. The 9th film from the writer-director features a large ensemble cast and multiple storylines and a tribute to the final moments of Hollywood's golden age. Now, I find this synopsis really funny because it doesn't even mention the Manson murders, which is the whole thing the film builds for, and basically the reason the film exists. Mm-hmm. But, that's...
I question that because I know like, bouncing around the idea during pre-production... because it was such a gruesome thing, and it was a very unfortunate thing. I know they were talking to Sharon Tate's sister and her family, so I mm-hmm. don't know if it was, like, a way to respectfully preserve her memory. Like, I didn't know if they wanted to play out the horror of what happened, because they shot it in the actual house that Sharon Tate lived in. Like, the house that in the movie.
Did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the house that she actually lived in. So, because I know throughout the movie, like, Charles mentioned Charles Manson as like Charlie once, and you kind of see what's happening. So I don't know if that was a way to kind of like commemorate her and in a way not encapsulate. What's the word? I don't know. But yeah, commemorate her in like a respectful and way, and just kind of remember her as like this great actress who had a promising start. You know,
sure.
I don't know. That's my theory of why, but I don't know what Tarantino. I'm not in his brain, so.
I'm glad I'm not in his brain.
Oh no, I would not want to be in his brain.
Well, let's dive right in.
Yeah.
I think I have a sense of it from what you said, but just for the record, what was your opinion of the movie overall?
Looking, like, comparing it to his others, I don't know if I liked it as much, but I enjoyed it. I thought there were some lulls in there that, like, especially with DiCaprio and Pitt's storylines, there were some parts where I was like, where is this going? I felt like they established them, and it seemed like they were going to have some type of character development, but it kind of just stopped at one point. Like, they established it as, okay, DiCaprio's, like, his career's at an end, and this is what he's doing, and then he went on and did the exact same thing that they were talking, like, that the Pacino had promised him in the end, and then Brad Pitt's just the angry guy that wants to show off his toxic masculinity and beat everyone up. And so I was confused as to, because I felt like in all the other ones the characters did more.
Sure.
So this one I was like, I don't know, but I did like where he went with Sharon Tate's character. I don't know, I loved all the scenes where Margot Robbie's just like sitting there super giddy in the theater, and like she walks past like the Cinerama and just sits there and gets her book for her husband. I just thought all those were like very precious and sweet ways to remember her by, or show her by. So
I should say before we go on, we're doing spoilers, people, because because come on, there's no film criticism without spoilers. Is totally pointless. It's like a fish with no skeleton. That metaphor sucked, but it gets the point across. I feel that I enjoyed the movie, enjoyed it as an entertaining, colorful buddy movie, also as a odd kind of slow burn suspense thriller. Yeah. Because I feel like, Tarantino, even though I think a lot of his movies are sort of just about self-indulgent pop culture references and look, I know about this thing and this thing. Like, when he really gets down to brass tacks, he can deliver really, nice suspense, and there's a scene which I'm sure we'll talk about in the middle of the movie at the Spawn movie ranch where he just cranks up the tension so like sublimely slowly. It's really great filmmaking. I think like I like the movie as a piece of art / entertainment. Where I have trouble with it is that I don't like a lot of the things it's saying about Hollywood. And like I mean we'll get into this more later, but how I kind of see the movie is I think it's a good movie, by no means a perfect movie, but I would say a good movie that's full of crap, I guess. Like I mean, and so and I'll get into that down the road, but it's putting it forth some ideas about the film industry and what the film industry was like that I think are like nostalgic to the point of just straight up whitewashing the whole thing.
You're not wrong.
So I guess I wanted to, but before we get into all that, I want to talk about the structure and pacing of the movie, because one thing I think is interesting is this is a movie that cost $90 million to make. God. Like according to Box Office Mojo, that's not even factoring in the marketing. Yeah, and it's got two huge stars in DiCaprio and Pitt. It's not Avengers Endgame or Star Wars, but it's very much pitched to the mainstream audience. Oh yeah, I think this movie's sort of structured and paced in a way that's pretty unusual for a movie of this scale. So I wondered what you had thought about that.
Well, when you talked about marketing, I don't know if you remember seeing the trailer, but the trailer made it seem like super fun and like quirky. And it's the 60s and like there's Margot Robbie and they're like in their like their 60s garb and the music and all the cuts in the trailer. I don't know. It just made it feel super lively and what's the word? Just happy and fun.
But it was groovy.
Yeah,
it's a groovy trailer.
Basically. And so when you get into the actual movie and it starts, I don't know, the amount of time I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is where it's going. I like the characters. I wonder what they're going to do with them, because obviously both of them have big issues that they need resolved. But then as it kept going, I was like, well, nothing's happening per se. No one's like gotten their problems or demons fixed. Like especially Brad Pitt, you know, the one where they're like, oh, he supposedly killed his wife.
Yeah.
Like someone mentions it and then never brings it up again, and I don't know if Tarantino's like, oh, I'll just do that for like dramatic effect. But at the same time, like, but he has issues, like violence issues that I feel like might stem from that. Like, was he an abuser? Was he this? I want to know. Like,
I want to go on a brief tangent about that because, like, you know, look, I mean, I think we can all agree, like, sometimes films have to go to quote unquote dangerous places to be interesting or entertaining, but like, you know, I do like have to wonder, like, the idea that maybe he killed his wife, like, is that really an appropriate thing to joke about? You know, like I don't find that funny, but it sure seemed like the movie did. Like, like it's kind of like, haha, he maybe killed his wife. He's a badass.
And like,
you know?
I won't. And he's like, I'll let you on set, but my wife won't let you on set because you're kind of creepy. I was like, I would agree with that 100%. I didn't. I don't know, and I kind of saw him in the same light of his character in Inglourious Bastards, because they both had like that really macho, I don't know, pride and like their masculinity, and they're just kind of like that one track mind. Totally. Because that's what I got from his character as well in this movie with Brad Pitt. He was just the bodyguard that just beat up people. And especially
he's literally the muscle.
And that's all he did, and I was kind of curious. I wanted to see more of him because I felt like he had more potential. Especially with that whole wife scenario, but also with the whole thing of him going to the ranch, especially his relationship with the old guy that was laying in bed. Like, I felt like Tarantino had so much more things to play around with, especially with the time limit he had on that movie. He could have, like, done other stuff within those time constraints other than the long dialogue.
He could have cut like one of the 5,000 scenes where someone like drives for an hour while the radio is on.
Because he does. You know? You're right in the fact that like he does a lot of weird jump cuts from like flashback to present, so you kind of don't know where you're at. Like, it took me a while, like about 2 minutes in, to realize when he's on the set with Bruce Lee that was a flashback. It took me a couple minutes. I was like, oh, okay, that's the story that they're referencing.
I didn't get that until it was over. You know, like I was like, oh yeah, I guess that makes more sense, because it's like, because I was like, wait, like what, like Bruce Lee's in this show that DiCaprio's character
is like, oh well, the what was it, the gaffer's wife is da-da-da-da, and that's why I was like, okay, I get this, but I would have liked to seen more of that than, I don't know, more explanation and more crafting explanation behind those things, rather than just leaving it at that. I don't know. Tarantino had so much room to play with, so
that scene like pisses me off. Because like you know, no way could, you know, some random stunt guy just throw Bruce Lee into a car. I mean, I thought it was like an entertaining scene, like in terms of I liked the dialogue, you know,
physical,
I thought it was well played, too. Great physical comedy, but but like, you know, kind of, it's like really, like, you know,
his
give me a break.
Bruce Lee's daughter spoke out about it. She saw it, and she's like,
that's
my dad wasn't one to pick a fight, or he wasn't trying to challenge anyone, and I don't know if like that's what Tarantino heard through the grapevine about my dad, but I just thought it was kind of disrespectful. And which I found is funny. Like, he'll, be super, take the time to be, like, super conscientious about sharing tape, but with Bruce Lee. Because it took me a minute to figure out who he was, too. I was like, I don't think he was like that, because he does, like, play as a super cocky, super arrogant guy, and I don't feel like that's his legacy.
I mean, is it supposed to be like it's almost like the movie version of Bruce Lee more than the real Bruce Lee? Which, like, I mean, I'm not, and I don't think that, like, excuses it, because I still think it's disrespectful, but I wonder if that was the idea.
Either that, or when he was writing it, he just wanted to pander to Pitt's character. I don't know. Yeah. He's like, I'll just have him say all these things to piss him off, and then he gets thrown against the car, and then he gets kicked off set, and I don't know. So
I want to dovetail off of something that you were talking about like, like plot threads not really developing. I mean, it's kind of interesting that, Tarantino, I remember, compared this movie months back to Roma. And,
what?
Yeah, I know. And it's like, see, when I first thought, my reaction was exactly like yours just now, and and I still think, like, it's it was a very, like, kind of obnoxious remark to make, because as far as I'm concerned, Tarantino isn't even close to the same ballpark as a master like Alfonso Cuarón.
Oh yeah, I just saw Y Tu Mama Tambien the other day.
I just saw it like a couple months ago. Great,
so
right?
Oh, good.
Oh yeah.
And that was one of his earlier works too. So I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I'd already seen his later stuff, but I was like, oh my god, this is It's so much fun too. It's one of the funniest movies. It's amazing, and I loved those actors already, and so they did such a good job. Oh, they were perfect. Yeah. But no, it's weird that, like, you think of his body work and then you compare it to Tarantino's. So I was like, I don't think that comes close to what you're.
Well, the fun thing I think is kind of interesting is, like, having seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood now, I see the comparison in a certain light, because they're both, movies where, like, we follow around a character, fictional characters in the case of Once Upon a Time, characters loosely based on real people in the case of Roma, but we follow these characters around. We don't really have, like, a plot in the traditional sense, but then, like, their lives intersect with a historical event. I mean, it's kind of interesting because, like, I feel like, all the Tarantino movies I've seen, there's, like, a pretty specific plot where it's like Kill Bill, she wants revenge. Pulp Fiction, well, it's kind of a bunch of, like, race against time, scheme, assassination plots, or I mean, or I don't know, general skullduggery mashed together. Like, whereas this is like, it's been called a hangout movie. Yeah, I think that's pretty apt. Like, it's kind of loose. It's kind of like, and we're just talking, chilling. With Roma, though, you have, like, a deep connection with the characters. Yes, where you're talking about with Tarantino, I feel like his movies are, like, fantastical and in, like, alternate worlds, like, they kill Hitler in Inglourious Basterds. And I'm pretty sure in Django Unchained, like, they go on a spree of just killing all the white slave owners in the South. Like, those are alternate realities that, sure, like, everyone wish Hitler died that in, like, 1940, whatever, but I don't know. Right. But, like, his are just kind of, you're right, revenge fantasies, like, revenge plots that, I think the difference is, I mean, Cuarón loves movies, and I know Gravity was inspired by a movie I think he really liked called Marooned, if I'm remembering the title correctly. But at the same time, like, I feel like Cuarón is making stuff that's coming from his life experiences in the real world. Like, whereas I feel like Tarantino is only able to process ideas through the movies he likes, and it's kind of, I remember. There's Anthony Lane writing about how, like, we have, like, kind of like a whole generation of filmmakers who seems like they only, like, live for movies. Yeah. Like, they don't really, a lot of them don't seem to get inspiration from things they've actually experienced. And not that that's entirely bad, because a lot of those filmmakers, like Wes Anderson, are, masters in making incredibly entertaining movies. But it seems like something is lost. It is, and you're right in the fact that they're self-indulgent, because I feel like he's so self-indulgent in, like, every aspect of
dialogue. He has, like, a weird, not fetish, but, like, fascination with violence. It's kind of creepy that kind of translates to real life with, like, the whole scandal stuff, which we can talk about later.
Yes.
But, yeah, he has just, like, this weird fascination with violence, and he has that indulgence with dialogue and also talking about movies. Like, he has his characters explain film history, other, like, film facts that are pretty obscure to just everyday moviegoers, and I don't know. It's very, like, just him pouring everything that he loves just into a script.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, I like it, so you're gonna like it, and this is how it's gonna be.
Well, like, it reminds me of the scene in Pulp Fiction where, like, it's either Samuel L. Jackson or John Travolta. One of them is like explaining the concept of a TV pilot.
Oh, and Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
and John Travolta doesn't know what it is.
Right. It's funny that the movie, like, sort of, like, grinds to a halt. To, like, you know what? We're gonna talk about what a pilot is. You know,
and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Like, on the one hand, it's kind of funny. On the other hand, it's like, you know, it's like. Dude, I'm just interested in the concept, so here's this scene where these characters talk about it, because I can do that.
Yeah, because there are genuinely funny movies and moments in Pulp Fiction, because if you compare that scene to the scene with Christopher Walken when he comes home.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, you think you're going somewhere, it's, like, very serious, they've been in a POW camp, he's like, it's been in my ass for, like, 7 years. That, I thought, was, like, a genuinely comedic moment. Like, that's good writing, good, like, comedic timing, versus the pilot one, I'm like, that... It felt like that one stumbled a little, or faltered, I guess.
Well, I love that Christopher Walken scene because it's such a ridiculous scene, and he plays it so seriously. Like, you know, son, your dad and I we're in this POW camp, and he wanted you to have the watch, so he kept it up his ass, and I kept it up mine. It's just like, and it's like you're wondering, like, why is this there? And then it's like, flashback, you know.
Yeah, and of course Tarantino only had him in for 5 minutes, but I feel like he's the only one who could play that scene so well. I don't know. And
that's one of, I feel like, the benefits of, you know, the way Tarantino makes movies. It's like he's not trying to be classy at all, so he can have, like, a ridiculous, distracting cameo that's a ton of fun.
Yes.
You know?
And
like,
I'm always surprised with people who are committed to his movies, because he has a lot of repeat actors with him.
Yeah, that's right.
Because of what it used to be Uma Thurman, and then there's, like, Samuel L. Jackson, and who else? And
Tim Roth's in a lot of them.
Tim Roth is in a lot of them.
And, of course, Zoe Bell is always involved, it seems, in some...
I know
one shape or another.
People. Leonardo DiCaprio's been in more than one.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's been in more than one.
They've each done 2 now.
Yeah, because he was in... Leonardo was in Django.
Yeah.
And then...
Brad Pitt was in Inglourious Bastards.
So...
He had the great line, "Arrivederci."
Oh, yeah.
Which that may be my favorite Tarantino scene.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just always surprised at people who are, like, committed. They're like, okay, I'll do it. And he gets this massive cast, and they're all so talented, and I don't...
Yeah.
And I think that's the nice thing, though, about his movies. Like, none of them ever give a bad performance. I haven't seen anyone who's been like, oh, you should have cast someone else. Like...
Well, he's very good with actors.
Oh, yeah, even in the newest one, the little girl... She's so good.
Julia Butters,
I loved her.
I loved her
the
too.
minute she started, I was like, oh my god. Leonardo DiCaprio was like, that's a tiny Meryl Streep in the making. Which I wouldn't disagree with. Her scenes were amazing. I loved her. She just plays this little precocious kid just sitting there. She was like reading a biography on Walt Disney. And she goes over there and makes like the little copy has in his hand, like the most adventurous, I don't know, like metaphor for his life somehow. Right. I don't know how she does that, but... She does, and she just sits there, like, comforting him while he cries. I don't know, that has to be one of my favorite scenes. She just did so well.
See, the reason, too, that scene's so good is because it could have gone so wrong.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't know about you, like, oftentimes I'm really irritated by movie kids.
Really?
Like that, like the kid in Jerry Maguire, like, to this day, I'm like, oh, God, that kid,
I haven't seen that movie.
But, like, you know... Because it's just, I don't know, like, the precocious kid is, like, a type that can become irritating. But in this case, like, it was such a clever idea that here you have, you know, DiCaprio is this kind of, you know, tacky slob. And then you have this little girl who's, you know, talking about the method. And, you know, like, you know, I definitely see the Streepness. I also saw a little bit of Daniel Day-Lewis, you know, and the kind of like hardcore commitment to this like
I can't
pure,
eat lunch
you know,
before a scene or else it'll make me queasy.
Yeah, she was like so like she wasn't. It's like I'm going to immerse myself, like that seriousness, that commitment.
And I kind of loved it though that she brought out, in terms of character development, like the smallest part of that out of DiCaprio, because he like treats her with such tenderness, especially after they rap and he like throws her on the floor. He's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "That was so good. Like she's like, "Don't worry about me. I have elbow pads on." She's like, "That was the best acting I've ever seen." And he like gives her a hug. I thought that was really sweet. I don't know, because he like cocks the gun. He's like, "I'm fucking Rick Dalton."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm back. I'm amazing."
Which is funny, when I saw the trailer, like, I couldn't tell that's what he was saying. And it's like,
he has that weird mumbly voice that I can't understand for the life of me.
Yeah. I want to talk about sort of this movie's portrayal of Hollywood, and the idea that, you know, it's a specific time. It's 1969. You know, we have two fictional main characters, but you know, a lot of people show up. You know, Steve McQueen is there, you know, played by Damian Lewis, and you know, of course, you know, Charles Manson actually isn't in the movie that much, but he is there.
He has like one scene, right?
Yeah, I think it's just like maybe like one scene,
like where
one
his face is like one shot with his face, and that's about it.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, you know, I don't think this movie is like as extreme a rewrite as Inglourious Bastards, but at the same time, you know, in addition to the fact that, you know, like it is, you know, there is a twist at the end, you know, there's a little, you know, it does go, you know, do a little killing Hitler in a movie theater, the version of that for the Manson murders, you know, but also it's, I don't know, like, I mean, there are things here that, you know, are just, you know, straight up, you know, from everything I've read, in contradiction with what Hollywood was like at that time, and I just wanted to talk about, I want to hear your thoughts about, like, kind of the tension between this movie, like, trying to almost be, like, a requiem for, like, a bygone era, but also being, like, a fantasy of, like, what that was like, because I mean, I think it definitely is a fantasy. It
definitely is, especially with that alternate ending. It felt like a weird timeline, because it is called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so it has that, like... Yeah, it's a fairy tale. Yeah, it's a fairy tale, and I feel like, oh, like, in another world, like, you know, their neighbors who were just next door, like, that would have happened to them, or if only this would have happened, then, like, that's the nice ending that we would have liked, and that's the fantasy that we all want to live in our minds and, like, blissfully be unaware of. But in terms of that, I felt like they were really playing the whole generational thing, like, things are changing, because the whole hippie culture and the bygone era of, what was it? He played in that TV series. What was the one that he played in the movie? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Jake Cahill?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Bounty Law?
Yeah. Okay, so apparently that was like a...
Which actually looks like a fun...
He was a real guy, and that was... His show was... I can't remember if it was actually Bounty Law or Tarantino based it off like a different actor had the similar show. But I guess in that era, there's a lot of people who just were used to just like the TV specials, and then they would try to break it out into the movie industry, and some of them just didn't make it. And I felt like in this one, like, DiCaprio was like a special case. Not everyone was having that problem. It's just like this one guy in Hollywood is moving on without him. They have the cool new things. What was it? Sharon Tate's, what was it called? The Wrecking Crew? Right? That's the movie. That stuff is happening. Like, Roman Polanski, he's like, that's the director of fucking Rosemary's Baby right over there. Like, the new stuff is coming, and I feel like he's the only guy who's kind of stuck in that, like, classic black and white. Because in the opening of the TV special, they're, like, in the chairs. They feel, like, super popular, and now...
He's almost literally in a box.
Yeah.
Because even the aspect ratio is narrow.
Yeah, that,
sense,
and
right?
Pacino keeps telling him, like, you're just the bad guy every week. Just the stereotypical or archetypal bad guy in, like, different TV shows around the lots. And, like, there's new stars coming up, and like, there's no reason for you to be here.
Right.
I don't know, he seems like just the one sad guy in the fairy tale, and then everyone else is fine, and they're doing great because it's 1969 and things are changing, and yeah.
Well, when you brought up the hippie
yeah.
element, I mean, like, you know, one thing that interests me is everybody seems to want to talk about this movie in almost like kind of mythical terms, you know, and I sort of see that, like you know, like I remember the New York Times review, A.O. Scott, he said, you know, like, DiCaprio is a knight, Brad Pitt is like his squire, Sharon Tate is, you know, the princess, and I think that's apt, but I also, there's another thing I thought of, which, you know, Hollywood of 1969 and Tarantino's vision, like, almost seems like this, you know, perfect place. Like, you know, everyone's eating, you know, delicious Kraft mac and cheese, and there's fun stuff on TV that's really kitschy and cool. Yeah, and then like it's almost like, you know, it's like the Garden of Eden, and then like the hippies sin, like the garden is destroyed. Oh yeah, you know?
That, and like they barely scrape on not contemporary culture, but I can't remember current times, because when she's talking about the Vietnam War, like, she mentions it once. Like, I feel like we're so isolated or secluded in this one.
It's like defiantly secluded.
They're like, oh, we're just gonna focus on like LA, because she's like, well, I'm glad you're not an actor, because like, we're not talking about real issues like the war and da da da, and that's the only time I remember like a current issue being brought up outside of acting and stunt doubles and like glamour and life. I don't remember any other thing that they were talking about, so I don't know if that's Tarantino's like nod of, okay, we're gonna like this is just a way to establish, I don't know, like the plot or establish the time frame, but everything else is just gonna be fantastical. And it's like the 60s, everyone was taking drugs anyway, so no one's gonna like remember. It's all
smoking acid cigarettes.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like that's kind of adds to the mythicality, because like no one remembers. Everyone was dazed and confused, so it's gonna feel kind of like you're just floating everywhere.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, because there is like a floaty feeling. Yeah, like these almost like these people are drifting, and their lives don't necessarily have like a sharp direction.
Especially with, like you were talking about with driving, they're always like driving on an open road anywhere, so you don't really know where they're going. It's kind of like that whole floaty, like, I don't know. I did like the camera work though in the movie. It was really good.
Yeah, by Robert Richardson.
Oh yeah.
Oscar winner for, I think, The Aviator and Hugo.
Oh, with the Martin Scorsese film? Yeah. I loved Hugo. That's like really off tangent, but I remember seeing that as a kid.
So I'm glad you brought up the car scenes, because like and there's a particular car scene that speaks kind of my issue with the movie and all this. Well, one of my issues. I have more than one. But so the scene where Brad Pitt gives Margaret Qualley.
Are you talking about her feet on the dashboard?
Well, I mean, definitely that, you know, I mean, because we all know about, you know, Tarantino and the foot thing, which, of course, there was going to be that, you know.
Oh, it's creepy.
But also, like, I thought that was, like, a weird scene where it's, like, she offers to perform oral sex on him while he's driving, and his response is to ask how old she is, and then ask for her ID, and then turn her down. And it was like it was a weirdly clean scene. Yeah, you know, it's like, it's almost like Tarantino like doesn't want to deal with like the question of sex, let alone sexual misconduct. And it's like it's sort of like, you know, it seems like he's trying to say like there was no misdeeds or casting couch, you know, in the golden age of Hollywood, you know, it was populated by, you know, wholesome he-men like Brad Pitt, you know, and it's like
bullshit.
Yeah, it's total bullshit.
It still happens today, so it's not like it's a new thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I question that too, because he's such a morally ambiguous character. Yeah, I kind of expected him to say yes.
Yeah, like and we're supposed to think he's like wholesome. Yeah, or like something.
It's a weird thing of where Tarantino like flips the tables where you're kind of rooting for him in the end, and you're like, but I don't want to root for him, and I don't know why. I don't know why my emotions are dragging me this way when I know, like, in my mind, I don't like him. I don't want
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, no. I thought she did a really good job, but, yeah, that scene was weird.
Oh, she did a great
But, like,
yeah.
I understand that discomfort, but for some reason, the feet on the dashboard just annoyed me the entire time. Like, I had so much anxiety. Like, what, the 5 minutes they were in the car? Oh, like, ew, gross.
So, I watched Death Proof for the first time a couple months ago.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the first shot of Death Proof is a woman's feet on a dashboard with like, you know, like painted red toenails. It's like, I remember because, like, I had heard about, you know, the Tarantino foot fetish.
Every movie, there's something with bare feet, and you're
and I was like that, like, oh god, it's so cliche that's the opening shot of Death Proof.
The only one I can't think of that had a weird foot one was the Hateful Eight. I don't remember anything about feet in that one.
I guess since it's all men except for Jennifer Jason Leigh, so there's less opportunity.
Probably every other movie I saw, I was like, oh, I don't like this. Like, why are you focusing on?
Right.
Oh no. But when they get to the ranch, that was a good. You were right. The suspense building up to that, I liked that one.
I think that's the best scene in the movie.
It was. I wanted it to continue. I wanted to know what was happening, but like I said, maybe it's back to I don't want to focus on Manson and his horrible misdeeds and the cult and all that. I don't know how much time they had to shoot there.
Well, and it's kind of interesting, the idea that, you know, we know presumably, like, you know, Brad Pitt leaves and the Manson family gets crazier in the, you know, the months that follow that we skip over.
Isn't it like 3 months?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting that, like, you know, like, all this is happening off screen, and in a way it, like, almost makes it, you know, more sinister at the end when, you know, the car pulls up and, you know, Tex is like, you know what he said, kill everybody in Terry's house.
And it's sad because it is situated in real life or history that you kind of know who they are and you kind of know about, like, the horrible background. So when you do meet them, you're like, well, your leader is just a fucking psychopath.
And I gotta say, like, my heart was, like, literally pounding. Yeah, when they got to the ramping up at the end. I
was like, because she comes out, Margot Robbie comes out like 10 minutes earlier, and she's pregnant, and she's like with her friends showing off her bump, and I was like, please don't, because you know the reality, the true reality of what happened. But when they are in the car, I found that was funny. They're like, that's fucking Rick Dalton. I had a lunchbox of him when I was little, which I thought that was a funny comedic thing that they wanted to put in, let Tarantino put in at the middle of it, which is maybe he's not as bygone as we think, which I thought that was a fun nod to that. But they're like, oh, that's the guy who was yelling at us with his giant pitcher of margaritas
right
midnight. But I also can't tell if he was trying to make that one character redeemable or she was just a coward. Because when she ran off, she's like, oh, I forgot my bat. Give me the keys. And she just drives away.
I felt... I mean, my main thought was, like, good for her.
Yeah, I mean, that was what I was...
Although she could have called the police, too,
I mean, she's still probably going to get arrested because she was still in the cult. But I questioned why? Like, why her? But I don't know.
Right.
She is Uma Thurman's daughter, though, which I thought was funny. That he wanted to give her that one little cameo in that movie.
Which is kind of interesting, like, given his own history with Uma Thurman.
Yeah. I read up on some of that, and it was depressing. And
so
bad.
I think the, you know, the way, you know, Tarantino tells the story at the end, I found really interesting. Like, just, you know, as we're... You know, we come to the day of the murder, and we're showing, you know, like, all these people, like, across the city, you know, going about their lives. You know, not only our main characters, but they even show Bruce Lee a bit again.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea, like, you can kind of, you know,
life is normal. Kind of.
And you can feel, like, kind of almost like this sort of this last gasp of, you know, joy before, like, you know, what's about to be the brutal end of an era.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, necessarily buy the thesis that, you know, like, you know, one really, you know, heinous act, you know, kind of, like, was the thing that changed Hollywood forever, even though it did have an immense impact. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. But, like, in terms of telling a story, there's something really powerful about seeing everyone going about their lives and knowing what's about to happen. But then, and then he twists it and, the trick of, like, actually, you know what? We're actually not going to do that. We're not going to have the tragedy. We're not going to have inevitability. We're just going to have a crazy scene where, one of the Manson girls gets, torched in a pool with a flamethrower. Like,
which I thought was funny when because he just comes out with it because they had the scene in the movie where he's a Nazi killer and he has the flamethrower, and then I was like, oh, you just have it in your pool shed.
Well, yeah, it's funny that, like, he kept it, like, all those years.
It's like I feel like it's a weird power trip for him, though, because he's like, I practiced 3 weeks with that, and like, he loves it. It's like a weird extension of his, I don't know.
He gets to be special after all. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, just flamethrower could be a metaphor for all kinds of things. I mean,
yeah, you're right. Like, one gets tortured in a pool, the other gets her face bashed in, which I was like, it's such excessive violence. I'm like, I don't like this. And then the other one gets mauled by a dog. What does he? I can't remember the other guy. He gets, like, stabbed in the leg and then he runs out of the house. I don't remember what happens to him.
Something nasty.
But it's something bad. But yeah, no, his third acts, I still haven't, even though I know they're coming, I still can't get over them. They're just like, which is funny because Brad Pitt also was in Fight Club, which is also a lot about like excessive violence, toxic masculinity, which I find really funny that like those are his repeat roles.
I know,
like, especially him.
Yeah, and
I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio is really good at just like that whole. I don't know. He's so emotive, but he does anger really well, and it's scary. I don't know. This
performance reminded me a lot of. The Wolf of Wall Street, like they're both like, and both he's like sort of like a pampered, like, self-satisfied character who thinks he's special and feels sorry for himself. Yeah, I love it,
because he's in the pool just chilling while all of this is going on, and he doesn't know that someone's broken into his house until she flies into the pool, like, screaming.
Does he drop the radio into the pool or something?
I can't remember. He just like. Because
like, he dropped something in the pool, I kept thinking he's gonna get electrocuted, isn't he?
She's in there and he gets off his floaty and gets the flamethrower. Fuck you.
Which it's like, for all my qualms with the movie, like I love the joke of, like, we're the whole time we're bracing for the violence, and we think we're gonna see some horrible recreation of the actual murder, and instead like there's kind of a delightful randomness to the fact that you know what, they change their mind and decide they'd rather kill these people, and those guys are able to kill them.
It felt like a weird like those time travel rules, like if you change one thing it's gonna change the course of I don't know,
the butterfly effect with the flamethrower and Brad Pitt's dog.
But it's definitely like that once upon a time fantasy thing, like if only this had happened, because they only lived right below them and they only had to go up through the gate, but no, they chose to do that, which it's a weird happy ending on so many levels, because not only is the murders prevented, but also, like, as a result, Rick Dalton, again, if Sharon Tate is the princess, it ends with him getting admitted to the castle. It does.
And so, like, the golden age isn't dead after all, because, he now gets to rub shoulders with, this ascendant star.
Yeah, I mean, what did he do? He did all those spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
In Italy when he got back. No, I thought it was really sweet when she's walking through the house and, like, the nursery is all painted, and it gives you, like, but by the end it gives you, like, a more sense of a hope than sadness, because that she, in this alternate reality, she lives and is able to have her baby with Roman Polanski. This is the other way around, but
right.
I know that he talked to her family, so I just don't know if it was just a way to, I don't know, encapsulate that moment of just, like, this is who she was, and she was so sweet and nice and had potential and had a lot of talent, so we're not gonna go into the unfortunate end of her life. So I don't know, I feel like, especially in Tarantino's, like, indulgence with gore, I feel like that would have been just, like, way too inappropriate for what had happened. I think people would have not been happy if he had gone that route.
Yeah. I'm just, glad, like, we didn't have to see that.
No, I don't think anyone wanted to.
I don't think so either. Yeah, and especially I don't think anyone wants to see him do that.
No.
Because, he would not, stage that, in a respectful way. I mean, it would be like something out of a spaghetti western. It would turn it into entertainment.
His deaths are very, it's called, not slapstick, but kind of in a way, like, his deaths are kind of, some of them are kind of quirky.
Yeah.
Like the way they get shot, the way they get blown up, I don't know, and I don't think he could take a sensitive subject like that and make it.
Right. I mean, kind of like in Kill Bill Volume 1, when Uma Thurman kills Lucy Liu, and of course she has to kill her by, like, not, like, decapitating her, but just, like, slicing off the top of her head. It's like everything has to be, like, some, like, elaborately gruesome thing, and which is why it's like, dude, like, you don't want him, like, going near her,
No, which I thought was nice. So they ended like, oh, do you want to come in for coffee or, like, drink something? Like, oh, here's my friend, and I don't know. And I thought, though, that was funny. They kind of brushed off the whole attack with, like, hey, what happened down there, neighbor? He's like, oh, I just got my house broken into. It's just a normal
He's just, like, kind of standing there casually. It's like, well, I had a flamethrower.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my friend, he's in the ambulance. He got shot. It's okay. It's okay.
The only melancholy note is, like, the last shot, like, from above, like, kind of looking down at the ground. Like, that just feels, like, kind of, like, weighted with the knowledge of what really happened. And the idea that, like, this is a fantasy, but it doesn't really change.
Yeah, it says once upon a time, ...
Yeah. It's like, it's a fairy tale. It's a dream.
It is definitely a fairy tale. And the way it's lit, especially in Margot Robbie's scenes, I don't know, there's just, like, it's because it's at the golden hour where it's, like, sunset, and it's really pretty, and, like, there's pinks and blues in the skies when she gets out of the movie. I don't know, that it just gives that kind of, like, princessy, everything's okay fairy tale.
Totally. Yeah.
Phase. I don't know. I liked those scenes so much, though. She just looked so happy.
Yeah. I mean, there was something kind of, like, endearing about her wanting to watch herself on screen. Like, kind of like, I'm in a movie, guys,
and she's so happy. I feel like Margot Robbie did so well in that. Because I love her. I don't know if you've seen I, Tonya, but she did such
I didn't see I, Tonya.
There's, like, a scene, literally, like, for a minute, maybe 2 minutes, where she just sits and she's looking in a mirror and it's, like, reflective of her. And she just goes, like, through a roller coaster of emotions for a minute. And it's just her staring at the camera, and it's so good. But I thought she did really good in this one. I wish I would have had more screen time with her as Sharon Tate, but oh well.
Yeah. We might actually get to talk about that with the next subject I want to cover. So I wanted to talk about Quentin Tarantino and Harvey Weinstein, as we kind of alluded to earlier. So I mean, I'm gonna go over some of this stuff because I a lot of this stuff, as much as it's been covered, I think a lot of people either don't know about it or just straight up ignore it. So I am going to go through a little bit of quotes and history. So, of course, Harvey Weinstein, was, helped make, all of Tarantino's films until this one.
Yeah, because it was Miramax and Weinstein Company.
Exactly. Yeah. And, in regards to Harvey Weinstein's, crimes, he said, Tarantino said, I knew enough to do more than I did. There was more to it than just normal rumors, the normal gossip. It wasn't secondhand. I knew he did a couple of these things. And then, around the time that Tarantino admitted that essentially he had, for the most part, stayed silent. I know he protested a little bit, but he didn't. He didn't take any meaningful action to protect the many women who were assaulted by Harvey Weinstein. Around that time there were also his there was the issue coming out with he on the set of Kill Bill, forcing Uma Thurman to perform a stunt that permanently damaged her body, and then also his comments from years ago on Howard Stern's show where he said that Roman Polanski wasn't a rapist, which, and to his Tarantino's credit, he did, apologize for that, as well he should. But one thing I've been bothered by is that, while I appreciate that he owned up to his, complicity in the Weinstein stuff, he hasn't really talked about it since. No. And there's this odd feeling of, it seems like he kind of just wants to get back to business as usual. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of film critics, a lot of people who love movies, seem to want that as well. I feel like there's surprisingly little reflection on this stuff. There's I was waiting for kind of when the movie opened, a huge wave of, articles sort of, dealing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood through a feminist lens. Yeah. And there's been some of that, but not nearly as much as I would have expected. Mm-hmm. And I just, I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about, why this lack of coverage, why this isn't being dealt with, by journalists in a meaningful way. But also, I mean, I don't think, any of us could say that Tarantino basically saying sorry is enough. No. So what he should be doing to make amends for his silence.
Yeah. I think it's cowardly, honestly. If you were, like you said, complicit with all of that, and I don't know if it's just because Weinstein, when people in power, they can take advantage of people so well. They're I remember, especially with Weinstein and other people, they were saying they were saying that he's I can destroy your career in 1 second. Right. You won't have a job anymore. Da 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 da. And I don't know if, to Tarantino's credit, he was just afraid that he wouldn't get funding. He couldn't go to another production or have his movie made there. I don't know, but I think it's not at all right what he did. And if someone who you hold dear or is a collaborator with you, you should care about them and believe in them. If he said that, and I know that he confronted Weinstein, but he brushed it off and was like, oh, it's fine, it'll be okay. And and I was like, no, it's not. It's obviously she was afraid and there was true fear and anxiety about coming forward, and it's traumatizing what happened to her, so someone should believe them and someone should do something about it. But I don't know if he just his mind, like you said, is kind of just okay, this is done, now on to my passion project, whatever. Oh, well, we split ties, she doesn't like me anymore, we don't work together, I can just find other people to work with, which I find surprising, especially if you know someone about that background. There's people who I know, Benedict Cumberbatch and Jessica Chastain, they vowed I want, at least 50% of the women have to be on set, or everyone has to have equal pay. I would feel if you're going forward with that, that should be, you should be goal oriented if that's if that's what you've been through. But I don't know, to hire just to go forward I don't know. I don't like it, and I'm not putting this eloquently. Obviously, I'm just more annoyed than anything.
No, I think everything you said I agree with. I think everything you said is a really good point. I mean, a couple things that stand out to me is, there was that study a while back that, showed that male film critics outnumber female film critics nearly 2-1. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably a big part of the reason why this stuff isn't being talked about in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. I mean, in regards to Tarantino and Weinstein, absolutely agree. I think it's cowardly not to deal with the issue, of Tarantino not to deal with the issue. Mm-hmm. I think I think it's so of a piece with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which really wants to, almost seems like an active way to try and turn back the clock and almost pretend that sexual misconduct doesn't even exist. I feel how can you make a movie about Hollywood in the 60s and not address that in some way? And I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he donated some money to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund and didn't say anything about it. But, since he hasn't said anything about it, I have to assume that he hasn't. Mm-hmm. I think he should. I think that's, I think, look, I mean, his, the choices he made, made a lot of people's lives a lot worse, Oh, yeah. I mean, Weinstein was a powerful figure in Hollywood. So was Tarantino. He could have used that power to protect people. But then also, like, I feel like he could just, he could be more respectful in general. Like, because there was that time when, he was asked by a journalist at Cannes, why doesn't Margot Robbie have more dialogue in the film? And he just, snapped at her, the journalist, I reject your hypothesis. And it's like, dude, instead of doing that, why don't you try listening for a change? Yeah. Why don't you, be... Just be more respectful, because, I mean, that's not enough. But even that would be something, instead of just acting like the world revolves around you. And if, someone criticizes what you do, like, I reject your hypothesis.
Yeah, but she's not wrong. If you look at it technically from, like, if you do, like, timestamps, she doesn't get a lot of screen time. Barely any if you compare it to any other character in the movie. Like,
you're right.
There's, like, a few scenes, but not a lot, and I cherish the ones that she's in, but it's definitely, she's not wrong. And if you look at some of his other movies, the women in those movies don't really do anything. They just kind of service, like, the plot that is centering around the males, and there's never usually a lot of females in the movie either. It's like 90% male characters, and then a couple females who aren't very memorable, like in Pulp Fiction. There's the girlfriend of Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Uma Thurman, and she just ODs, and then she's gone, and that's it. And
which basically, like, all the women in that movie are basically like a burden on the male characters.
Yeah,
and it seems like that, or at least that's how Tarantino saw them.
Yeah, or in, like, Inglourious Basterds, Diane Kruger, I think that's her name, and the other woman, they both die in vain for their cause, and I'm like, well, okay, I guess Brad Pitt's the only one that gets to make it out alive, because he's Brad Pitt, apparently.
Brad Pitt makes it out of all of these movies alive.
What was the movie he produced, 12 Years a Slave, and he's like the white savior complex? Oh, God.
And also, he showed up with that, like weird beard he had at the time. Yeah. It's like, did people back then look like that?
I can't remember right. Wasn't they divorced over? Wasn't it there was some type of domestic abuse as to their divorce?
Wait, him and Angelina Jolie?
Yeah, wasn't it something about that?
Well, I don't know, but I heard like weird gossip, like something about him like in an airplane or like going crazy.
Yeah,
or, I don't know.
I can't remember. I don't think it was infidelity, but I can't remember if it was just, like, emotional abuse or physical abuse. I can't... But it was something I think about abuse, and that's why they got divorced. But that's just surprising to me that... I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he still makes it out alive in the end, too. In the ambulance, he's like, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah,
like, I'm going to come back.
You're a good friend, Cliff. You know what I mean?
Oh, God.
I want to briefly, too, nod to... Kill Bill, which I think, even though that, like, on the surface, like, seems like, a movie that's empowering to women, like, I feel like Uma Thurman is very much, like, a fetishized object in the movie. Like, I know, I mean, and any women who are listening, feel free to tell me in the comments section if I'm misconstruing it, but she struck me as, like a man's kind of fantasy of a strong woman as opposed to like a fully formed character.
Bit. Yeah, like, I've only seen parts of it, but
she's almost like an action figure.
Yeah, I know, especially in the movie posters. She looks very statue-esque and kind of like a doll. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And it's creepy.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't do great. And this is more commentary on just like actors themselves, but I know Leonardo DiCaprio, like, someone did something, like, made a chart, he only dates women, like, 25 and under, and that's just weird to me, and they're usually all models, and it was just, like, a interesting note. If you just talk about the two protagonists in that movie, and then you compare them in real life, and then you connect it to the issue we're talking about, I'm like, does this not just, like, align just slightly off? Everything just seems not right?
Yeah. I know, like, it almost seems like was this movie really, like, just all about, like the guys sort of almost, like, basking in Hollywood white male privilege?
Yeah.
And, like, you know?
And I know they took it to Cannes, right? It premiered
Yeah,
in Cannes.
yeah, they took it to Cannes, yeah.
I think it got mixed reviews. Not everyone loved it either.
Well, I noticed, and, you know, I certainly Rotten Tomatoes is a far from, you know,
accurate
perfect indicator, but it is interesting that, you know, the score has gone down. Mm-hmm. I think it started out in the 90s. It's now in the 80s. Okay. I mean, you know, that's not unusual. I mean, often like these big auteur projects, you know, they're like high up, but like semi-divisive. But I think it's interesting nonetheless. As more voices have come to the table, you know, there's less of like, you know, ooh, let's bow to Quentin, the god of movies. You know, like
every year I feel like he always gets like nominations for his movies, but I don't know. I feel like lately they've been maybe for acting, but a lot of for like the technicality things, which I can understand because I think The Hateful Eight got like best score because
that's right. It
was
did.
Ennio Morricone who did it, but like I feel like lately it's less for his talent and more for like just the things that everyone else on the crew has done.
Well, he didn't. I remember he didn't get nominated for Best Director for Django Unchained.
Yeah, no, he did.
But he won for his screenplay, which I thought was kind of odd.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's not the choice I would have made that year. But.
Who was nominated that year?
Which
for screenplay?
For screenplay?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it may have been like a little bit of a weak category.
Okay.
So it's like they voted for like the name.
Yeah.
I mean that's
recognizable
just my theory,
on the
you know.
ballot.
Yeah.
So everyone else.
And plus his dialogue's distinctive, and you know, like in the minds of the Academy, like they don't even think of like the aspects of screenwriting beyond dialogue. They don't even really. I don't think about like structure or any of that.
No, it's just a bunch of old white people in the Academy.
Yeah, that's
like 90% of the voters. Because I feel like I follow the Academy on Instagram. And I was like, look at our new members. But I'm like 90% of your old white people who get screeners sent to your apartment personally and have like the cool swag bags like for all the movie promotion stuff.
Well, they've been trying to bring a more varied group of people in over the years, and yet somehow Green Book still won.
I know. I mean, I was so
clearly whatever they did is not working.
So pissed when that one. I was like, take that back. We need to do like a La La Land Moonlight thing again and just reread the ballot.
Over Roma. I mean, I was pissed.
I was mad.
I could do just a whole podcast.
Yeah, I wanted that or The Favorite to win. I loved The Favorite.
Yeah, The Favorite. See, like that would have been a worthy winner because like that's an actual like fully formed vision and not just this pandering fake progressivism.
Yeah, I feel like that director in particular has like his movies are wacky, but they're crafted so like. I don't know, particularly and beautifully, kind of like Wes Anderson. And like, I love it, and you're immersing me in that world. Whereas Tarantino's, I was like half on board, half off board the entire time I was watching it. I was like, where is this going? Okay, I like this part. Not really into that part. Okay, the movie's done. I liked it. Didn't love it, but it was a movie.
I totally get that feeling. I want to, before we wrap up, I want to get into a little more of this idea where a lot of people say, when you criticize the personal life of someone like Tarantino, people say things like separate the art from the artist and blah blah blah, but I somehow feel like that misses the point. Like I don't think at all that someone who like admires Tarantino like as an artist, I don't think that makes them a bad person because on my list of my favorite films, there are a number of them that involve people where who did reprehensible things. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like like the separate the art from the artist thing, it so misses the point because I feel like what we really just need to do is that and what Tarantino seems incapable of doing is acknowledge that what happens in the real world is more important than what happens on screen. That, the fact that someone is a bad person is more important than the fact that they are a good filmmaker.
Yeah, I think it's definitely... I don't think I can separate in my mind personally of just, like, what you did was inexcusable. And I remember the year Casey Affleck went for Manchester by the Sea, and I loved that movie. And then that thing came out about it, and I was like, now I don't think... We're good in that movie, of course, but you did something, and I don't think you can separate your merit as an actor from you as a person, because...
Sure.
Like, you're one person, so all those traits are just, like, are you... So I don't know, and like especially I loved Master of None on Netflix, and once Aziz Ansari won that Emmy, I was like, yay! And then it came out, and now I'm just like, I don't know, I'm kind of like ambiguous every time if I want to watch the show, and I kind of want to. I'm like, I feel bad though, because like,
sure,
it's like you did this, and now I don't know how to feel about it, but I mean, Tarantino's a big name, so he's probably just going to keep doing things. But if he's going to use that name, use it as a platform for advocacy.
Yes,
and do something positive with it, because a lot of celebrities use their platform not for good things all the time, but you have an elevated voice more than normal people do. So I think you should take that to the most, to the advantage as most of you can. So...
I think it's a perfect note to end on. Unless you have any final thoughts.
I don't think I do, other than, like, if you like Tarantino, you can go see the movie. Let us know what you think about it.
Yes.
It might be not as lukewarm as our feelings on it, but who knows? I don't know.
So I mean, for listeners who don't know, I work in a movie theater, and, someone was going to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it's playing at the theater where I work. And, I all I could really say was, like, if you like Tarantino, you're going to really like him, It's like that was, like, the nicest way I could think to put it. Like, because I think, like, like, if you're into this kind of thing, it is totally that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's for you. If Tarantino's not your number one, then it's okay.
Yeah, anyone who is there, like, isn't, like, on board the Tarantino train, they're probably going to have the experience we did, where it's like they'll have, like, interesting conversations and also just be kind of annoyed by the whole thing.
Basically.
All right, well, if you like this podcast, please click thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at T.H.O Movie Reviews. And please check out all the great reviews and content we have at thomoviereviews.wordpress.com. Once again, I'm your host, Bennett Campbell Ferguson. I'm here with Hannah Dawson, and from all of us here at T.H.O Movie Reviews, I don't know, I can't think of, like, a clever Tarantino-esque sign-off.
I feel like it just say motherfucker and you're good.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, he loves cursing.
Boom, done.